Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome from Incubate Hub. I think we'll just wait for a couple of more minutes. Yeah, we will start at 2, around 2. Good afternoon. This is Uday here from Incubate Hub. Appreciate your time, having joined in today afternoon. As Incubate Hub keeps hosting webinars to showcase, emerging tech, both from the hard tech and soft tech. Companies who are really impacting various spheres of our lives. As we know, COVID has been, uh, really had a very accelerated adoption of all digital technologies, and that's what we are also seeing, a lot of adoption, you know uh, across various spheres, and especially in the industry. So uh, I would just we should be starting in a while. Maybe I will give max a minute or so for others to join in. uh, yeah, Prut, I mean. Yeah, good afternoon yet once more. This is Uday here from Incubate Hub. And again, welcome you all today afternoon. Uh, Today is yet another, showcase of an excellent company who is really impacting in the space of Industry 4.0. And as you would know, COVID and the pandemic has really accelerated adoption of technologies, and we are seeing that not only in the manufacturing plants, warehouse, and logistics, but almost a lot of other industries, as every one of us know. But today's topic is very interesting. See how uh, hello, am I there?
Yeah,
Yes,
there.
you're audible.
Tuhin? Okay. I was just trying to check. Suddenly, my screen got a little zapped. Okay, so today's topic is very interesting. I have Tuhin Sharma with me, who is a co-founder, and without any ado, just I would like to bring him upon. But before that, I just would like to share. We have been working closely with Azure Robotics, Tuhin's team, and we are really excited in terms of what he is going to share today. Just to give you a quick background about Tuhin, he's a co-founder at SEO, and he comes with a very rich background. I mean, himself being a robotics software engineer, as well as coming from VIT, and also having experience at companies like Mercedes, and also consulting companies as an analyst at Deloitte, before becoming a co-founder at SEO. He would walk us through on today's subject of Intra-Logistics, how mobile robots can play an important role. And the cadence will be that we will have him present for the next 20 minutes to 25 minutes, and then followed by a Q&A session. If during the presentation anyone has any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question, and also kindly place your questions in the chat bar, and myself and Pruth, one of us, we will see that we are able to ask the questions on your behalf. Also request you to be muted, if in case you are not speaking. So Tuhin, all yours.
Thank you, Uday. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, actually. Welcome to the session on the art of material handling in intralogistics using mobile robots. So first of all, I would like to thank the Incubate Hub team for having me over to speak to you all, and for organizing this webinar as well. It is indeed a pleasure. Before we begin, Here's a little bit about Accio Robotics and myself. I'm an engineer from VID Vellore, and I'm the co-founder and director of business development at Accio Robotics. And we are an on-demand automation company, which is developing Bot Alpha, which is an which is an autonomous mobile robot. And our aim is basically to automate the process of material handling across various industries. Our product offerings basically include industry-defining indoor robotic solutions that are modular, easy to integrate, and also economical. So, let's get on with the session now. One of my all-time favorite quotes about the idea of the next industrial revolution is this line by Warren Bennis. The factory of the future will have only two employees, a man and a dog. The man will be there to feed the dog, and the dog will be there to keep the man from touching the equipment. It is a vision of how the factory of the future is going to look like and a sign of the things to come. But there are few key challenges that companies, especially in the manufacturing industry, are facing across geographies these days. And the foremost of them is a shortage of labor. A study by Michigan State University basically showed that there's going to be a global labor shortage of about 8 million people by 2030, which is projected to lead to a possible global revenue loss of over $600 billion. The next challenge is that the rising costs of labor. Labor wages have seen a steady rise over the years, which has led to a cascading effect across several supplementary jobs in the industry. And the final challenge is actually competition, and there's always a constant increase in competition fueled by pressures of living in a low-cost economy. So companies would need to constantly, monitor and mitigate their spends to stay relevant. Another thing that we have deeply understood is that what has gotten us to this point in the global industrial development stage is not going to get us there. There be the not so distant future we want to see our factories and warehouses reach. So most of us are well aware of the ethos of what Industry 4.0 stands for and means. We'll not try to analyze Industry 4.0 from an implementational standpoint. Industry 4.0 is actually a term which was coined by the German government, and they set out a plan to shift from Industry 3.0, which was the IT-based revolution, to a system we now know as Industry 4.0. And this was basically done to monitor, analyze, and improve operations. Industry 4.0 is all about the data that we obtain from shop floors and how we use that data to improve our systems. This actually allows us to make a lot more intelligent decisions and about how to improve them. So after getting to know all this, one might ask the question where to actually start in the process of implementing such methodology. Well, a good place and the easiest place to start is basically investing in a plants or a warehouse's Wi-Fi infrastructure. The sensors and robots that are coming online now, would demand a robust Wi-Fi infrastructure. Generally, in terms of these kinds of technologies, and surprisingly enough, industries lag behind roughly 10 years when compared to consumer technology products, which we use at our homes. And this really needs to be addressed first. Employees generally have a particular way to approach any situation or problem at their disposal. They are generally not thinking about how technology can be applied instead of proven solutions. The staff really needs to be armed with new tools enabled by Industry 4.0. This will help them create modern solutions for such problems. Now, critical thing to note here is that we need to change the entire process operations overnight, to move from Industry 3.0 to 4.0. The key here is for it to be a gradual process, and we need to walk before we can run first. And here at Accio Robotics, we're building autonomous robots for material transport. And one of the lowest hanging fruits towards taking the first step to the factory of the future is smart material movement. And I don't just say that lightly. The reason for my stress on improving material flow is backed by logic. And I'll explain what that means. What I mean by that is, if I'm bringing all the inputs to a process, and if I'm taking all the outputs away from the process, I actually do not really need to know anything about what the process in between is. The process could, literally be anything. But if we are bringing inputs to it and taking outputs away from it, we are garnering a very significant amount of centralized data. So we get access to information like where all of our inventory is, when is my equipment running and when it is not. We know the number of units produced, we know the quality rate, and we also know the cycle time. Moving on, this is our autonomous mobile robot, Bot Alpha. And let's take a look at some of the primary features that Bot Alpha has to offer. The most critical feature of the robot is that it can move autonomously within an indoor environment. The robot platform is also completely modular in nature, which means that it can easily be coupled with various peripherals to suit different use case needs. And it being modular, also gives us the flexibility to vary the payload carrying capacity of the robot. At this point, I must also point out that it is one of the most affordable mobile robots in the market, which is very important when we consider the fact that Accio Robotics actually promises an ROI of up to 1 year in most cases, compared to the industry standard of up to 4 to 6 years. The most critical aspect of the way that the robot is designed in is that the robot has to be brought in for deployment in a facility. We do not need to make any infrastructure changes when we do that. It has a very easy implementation cycle, and ideally speaking, like I said, you do not need to make changes to your existing processes, to your existing infra to implement the robot. Now, following this, after having told you about the product, what I've done is I've brought in two case studies for you where we have assessed real-time numbers for such processes, and we've tried to determine how these robots can actually be beneficial. The first case study is Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages bottling plant. Now, we visited HCCB's facilities in Gujarat as well as Karnataka and identified the potential avenues for automation. Now, I'll discuss these avenues one by one. The first avenue was basically pallet quality check and reloading of empty pallets. So currently what they're doing is they are manually reloading empty pallets onto their palletizer, and 4 employees are basically employed to do visual quality inspections and quality checks on pallets. Potential solution for this would basically be to have the pallet movement automized using our AMR and have a quality check mechanism over the palletizer itself using image recognition. The process flow would be fairly simple, and the process would be completely autonomous in nature as well. You do not need manual forces and manual processes to load empty pallets onto the palletizer. The second avenue is for finished good pallet movement to the storage bay. So in the current process, they're basically using forklifts to carry the finished good pallets from the end of the process line to the storage area. And the use of the AMRs instead of the forklifts is the most ideal solution for this avenue. The AMR can basically lift the pallet on top of itself and it can drop it off to the storage area, as we can see in the video. Now, in terms of numbers, the current metrics are a total of 3 forklifts which they are using. 2 of those are being used for FG movements, finished good movements, and 1 is used for pallet reloading. And pallet quality check is happening manually, right? The Accio Robotics metrics for the system are basically 3 AMR robots for FG movements and 1 AMR robot for pallet reloading, which brings a total of 4 robots, as well as 1 pallet quality check system. Now let's look at how the cost of these processes would play out. So the current systems cost HCCB about 80.8 lakh rupees. And our proposed system would come in at about 1.02 crore, thus giving them a return on investment within 16 months. But even this is not enough insights, because just getting an ROI will mean nothing to them, which is why we've also done an annual running cost analysis. And the current system costs them about 28 lakh to run annually, whereas our system would cost them only 1.75 lakh to run annually, thus giving them an annual cost benefit or an annual cost saving of about 26.25 lakh. Now, Before moving on to the next use case, I'd like to touch upon the booming grocery delivery market in India currently. Why I'm doing that, I'll explain shortly. Um, we've all seen and heard about Zepto that launched in September 2020, and in merely 13 months, they have bagged a $570 million valuation. They're operational in 7 cities with about 1,000 dark stores currently. It can be rightly said that Zepto basically disrupted the Indian grocery delivery market by promising grocery deliveries within 10 to 15 minutes. So much so that Grofers, which was actually earlier operating in the 24-hour or same day grocery delivery space, they had to pivot to the 10-minute delivery model overnight and even change their name and brand identity to Blinkit. They are basically pretty much market leaders at this point of time. There are several other players also in the quick grocery delivery space, such as Swiggy, Instamart, Flipkart Quick, Dunzo, as well as Big Basket. However, we feel that their current operational model is not very sustainable in terms of scale, and I'll explain why we feel so. Before that, let's take a look at this Twitter poll that was conducted by Kunal Shah, and 71% out of the 41,000 people that participated in that poll basically said that they'd rather not pay extra to get their groceries delivered in 10 minutes. And now here's why the problems will start to come up for such companies. They basically just can't keep offering free delivery forever, which is why they'll have to keep a check on their overheads and their operational spends. These companies also have a very high labor attrition rate, and labor is really tough to find these days and even tougher to keep once you found them. Another huge problem for these companies is inventory leakage. Stealing is a prominent practice by most warehouse workers, and this affects the bottom line of the company badly. Now, we truly believe that grocery delivery companies are actually material handling companies, and their USP basically lies in how efficiently they can deliver groceries at scale. Scale being the important word over here. Our robotic solutions can actually help them in faster picking, also to increase their throughput, as well as keeping their systems up and running for 24/7. Because robots are not humans, they do not have fatigue, and they can basically keep the system operational throughout the day. The robotic system, will also help them reduce their man force massively. The possible use cases for this solution lie in both dark stores as well as main grocery hubs. The workflow of a system like this would be very simple. Once a customer places an order, a pick list is generated. The pick list is then assigned to the robot, who moves autonomously to the racking area to retrieve crates or totes where the items are kept. The totes or crates are then brought to the packing station where a worker packs them and ships out the order. So we have a video that outlines the exact process that I'm basically trying to describe over here. Robots move to the racks and retrieve orders autonomously, and you do not need humans to do any of the picking activity. You just have one worker who is packing the bags for you. Now, basically, let's look at a case study with real world numbers. So we've gotten data from Blinkit in this case for one of their dark stores, and their current metrics are such. So they need to hold a total inventory of 5,000 SKUs, and they need to fulfill a maximum of 300 orders every hour. And each order has 10 picks, which means each order would have 10 items. And they currently use 25 people to fulfill these orders, who are working at an average salary of about 16,000 rupees. And they're spending about 48 lakh annually just on salaries. So, to put our solution in perspective, we have considered the space for the dark store to be about 5,000 square feet. And a solution puts their entire SKUs in totes and then racks them up. The total number of totes comes out to about 3,400, and the total SKUs comes out to about 7,000, considering 2 SKUs per tote. Our robot moves at about 2.2 meter per second, taking a maximum of 47 seconds to bring one tote to the packing station. An easy analysis actually shows us that the number of robots needed to meet their throughput numbers is basically 50. So let's now look at the financial aspect impact this can have on the company. Our current robotic system at about 4 lakh rupees per robot will cost about 2.03 crore for 50 robots. And it will cost about rupees 50 lakh to basically set up the infrastructure in terms of the totes and the rack, bringing the total to about 2.53 crore, which gives us an ROI in just under 5 years, considering that their annual spends just on salaries is about 48 to 50 lakhs. But this system does so much more than just eliminating salaries because they will have much higher throughputs. They will also have flexibility to expand in the future, to cater to the increased future demand by keeping their space and area the same. And more importantly, they will also, completely eliminate inventory leakage and stealing by implementing such a system. So thank you so much for giving us the time and the patience to hear us out. And I'd like to open the floor now to any questions that you guys might have. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tuhin. That was such a nice, brief but very awesome, insightful, introduction and how and really, very succinct and precise and concise, I would say.
Definitely.
That speaks volumes, if you ask me, Tuhin, in terms of what impact you are causing and also work you are doing. And I think we are happy to take questions. Anyone who has questions might want to unmute themselves and ask any questions, please. I anyways have few questions to win for you, but I will reserve them maybe for a few seconds, to allow someone else to ask. Yeah, please.
Tuhin, hi, thanks for the presentation. This is Tahir this side from Flyjack Logistics. So one basic question I had was regarding the navigation you're using. Is it some RFID beacon based or machine vision?
So Tahir, we have basically run our systems on a complete natural navigation and SLAM-based navigation approach. So there are no markers and there are no guided mechanisms such as beacons to help the robot navigate.
Okay. So there's not going to be any sort of setup cost if we are going to put this into a warehouse.
Exactly. In terms of implementing a simple AMR robot, there would be no setup cost other than your Wi-Fi infrastructure if you do not have that in place already.
Okay. And regarding the accessories with respect to the forks or any other sort of the mast or any other sort of mechanism, so is that an add-on or does it come along with the board?
So ideally, it would be pitched to you and sent to you as a complete solution. So it would be a productized solution for you in terms of the add-on accessory that would be on top. So that entire price would be all inclusive.
Okay.
But if you're asking if it would be over and above the basic mobile robot price, then I would say that definitely it would be a little more than the base platform cost.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thanks for that question. Yeah, I guess so. You addressed my first question. I was just wanting to know in terms of whether these will be retrofitted in the existing facilities or would they require customization. I think too.
No, so definitely these systems are basically designed to ideally be part of your existing system and your existing environment. So we do not want to make a lot of changes to your current processes, to your current facility in terms of infra as well as how the people are interacting with the process. So the robots are designed in that way. That being said, there is a minor level of customization that would have to happen, but that is definitely on a case-to-case basis, which is why we say that each and every case is actually unique in nature and it's not a one-size-fits-all for every company.
Tuhin, one more question from my side. Sorry.
Yeah.
In terms of controlling the bot, do you need an external software or can we integrate it with our own WMS?
So two things. Our application, we have a mobile app that basically helps you control the robot and gives you all sorts of data and information. That app links to your WMS or existing ERP system.
Okay,
So
okay. And
both of the softwares will talk to each other.
right. So in terms of any particular to access any particular location within a large format warehouse, so how do you tame your system to detect what is the location that you've provided?
So basically, right, what we do is the robot is first asked to map the entire environment, and that is done once during that is basically part of the deployment cycle.
Mhm.
Once the robot has mapped the entire environment, it already knows where the environment is, and then it's very similar to how you ping locations on Google Maps on your phone. There would be a similar map access that would be given to you of your entire shop floor or your entire warehouse, where you can basically just ask the robot to go from point A to point B to fulfill tasks.
Okay, okay. Got it. Thank you, Tony.
Sure.
Thanks, Twin and Tarun. Yeah, Ruth, is there any other question on the AMS or? So, Tuhin, I mean, in terms of, I mean, just a basic question is, do you need any kind of a flooring for this robot to work, or how is it?
So, although these systems have basically been designed to run and work in a standard Indian shop floor.
Ah,
So a normal Indian shop floor and warehouse flooring should be perfect for the robots to work. We have a customized suspension system built into the robot as well, which enables it to, go over minor cracks and crevices in the floor. But of course, that being said, these are deep tech systems, hardware and software systems, and they would need a certain level of sophistication to the floor, but minor level of cracks and crevices, like I said, it can manage it.
correct. Yeah, I guess, yeah. Nacho was also telling me about this. Yeah,
Right.
because, I just wanted to know from standpoint of, you know, uh, typical lead time, right? For
Uh-huh.
solution to get deployed. I mean, that was my leading question, but I just thought, is there any preparations before that? But what is the typical lead time you have seen in terms of piloting it as well as then deploying it at scale?
Sure. So the general cycle between a pilot towards deployment would go anywhere between a 4 to 5 month period because it would be a culmination of the order coming in and then us putting together the number of robots that are there for the particular order and then shipping it out, and once it's shipped out, running a complete deployment cycle over there, which is then another 1 to 2 weeks. So the total between a month-long pilot and the final deployment would ideally be about 4 to 5 months.
Superb. No, awesome. I mean, so what is your plans around, I mean, we have spoken this at a couple of our customer discussions, you would know, but I think in the interest of everyone, I wanted to know in terms of uh, uh, where is your company based out of? What are the lead times, in terms of getting any deployments done at scale and things like that.
Sure.
Uh,
So we are basically based out of Bangalore, but ideally speaking, we've had pilots and POCs in various parts of the country. So we have done that at Maharashtra as well. We have done that in parts of Karnataka. We have gone as far as Delhi also. So the company is based out of Bangalore, but we do have a pan-India presence on that front.
Correct. I mean, while you have clearly given which are the industries where you are clearly seeing traction, but
Right.
in general, what are the industries where you feel you have,
So
you would like
ideally
to focus?
speaking, ideally speaking, we've been working with a lot of manufacturing companies up till this point, and we've worked with companies in the electronic component industry. We've worked with companies in the garment and textile industry. But moving on from this point out, we basically want to try and approach a very productized solution kind of approach in which we are taking this two warehouses, two fulfillment centers, like I showed you in one of the case studies as well.
Got it. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Tuhin, I have a question. Achapai.
Yeah, Nachapa.
So, you did show the slide where the ideal factory or warehouse will have one man and a dog, if I'm not wrong, right? So, ideal
Right.
ideal scenario, yes, it is beneficial for organizations to maximize their ROI and things like that. But have you got any rebuttal, or in the future, have you envisioned that there might be issues when you're trying to eliminate an entire labor force or workforce?
See,
Yeah.
sure. Thanks for that question, Adaba. Very interesting question, actually. But how I look at it is, and how I see this is because, we are not talking about removing the entire labor force and basically just having these people to be out of jobs. That is not what we want. That is not what we are talking about, also. That is not what we are pitching, also. So, first and foremost, these are collaborative systems, and they would only function if there are humans also working in the environment. Um, at today's technology development stage. Where we want to get is a whole different question, which is what that slide actually tried to outline. We want to get to a point where the entire workforce is basically upskilled and they are basically just running the systems, and they do not have to be part of non-value added tasks such as moving material from one point to another. We are working towards and heading towards a state where we can upskill and empower most of the people who are working in our blue collar workforce right now. That is the sign of a developed economy. That is the sign of an economy that has achieved scale, and that is a sign of where India needs to be in the coming years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Tuhin. I completely agree. I think in any shift that happens due to technology, there will be questions like this, right? That happened even when Uber and Ola came, and
Definitely,
suddenly you see people, shifting and upskilling. So
definitely,
makes sense. Yeah, thanks.
definitely.
Perfect. I think really that's the way in terms of how that brings me to a point where Tuhin, if you see for a production line which has got say or a warehouse wherever, if you have on a one production line having multiple products being done or stuff like that, right? Those complexities which actually puts a lot of pressure on human beings minds, right? And especially
Yeah.
given times of pandemic, if you'd like to touch base upon that in terms of how AMRs will really, have a positive impact on the, frame of minds of people who are going to be there in the factories and warehouses. That would be an interesting thing to really understand.
In terms of the pandemic, definitely, if we already had systems like this in place, we wouldn't really need to have been bothered about any kind of a lag in terms of the production, in terms of the throughput that these factories were basically undergoing. Because if we see in today's day and age, after the pandemic has hit us in 2020, we have still not been able to recover from the shock that the semiconductor industry basically faced, because of which there are humongous amount of lead times when it comes to anything, any kind of an equipment being manufactured which uses semiconductors, and that has led to huge lead times in automobile development. It's led to huge lead times in industries like ours also, in robotics specifically,
Oh,
whichever
healthcare.
industry,
I mean, including,
even
sorry,
healthcare. Yeah,
healthcare, health tech, medical devices who they
absolutely,
rely on the chips and other things. They are really
absolutely,
their product development as well as sourcing. I mean, has come to a
absolutely.
little
So so
standstill sometimes.
we need to be a little proactive in nature about this. That is what these technology solutions will actually help us get to, instead of being reactive in nature, which is how we mostly react to situations. Instead of being reactive, we need to be proactive. That is what I would like to
Absolutely, I
say on
think
that.
that brings perfect. I think that
Mhm.
that brings to the point of what Nacho's questions genesis is, that if we are going to enable everyone, the lasting or the ripple effect of anything which could be avoided, if
Yes,
that is taken care, and obviously even the labor force will also really appreciate this in terms of how this is so critical for anyone to really adopt. Yeah, thanks
absolutely,
for that. Thanks for that. Yeah.
absolutely.
Hmm. I mean, just if you'd like to share about your company more, I mean, while we anyways work with your team, but generally, if you would
Mhm.
like to know, share as to what is your team and what is your strengths in terms of
So
dealing with, yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So we started in the year 2020 in the middle of the pandemic only, and we basically started developing autonomous systems. We first were working on a project for building an outdoor autonomous delivery robot, and we transitioned to making indoor robots first because we saw that as more of a lower hanging fruit also and more of a critical problem to solve as especially from Indian industrial standpoint. And right now, we started out with I think 3 or 4 employees, 3 or 4 team members in 2020, and right now we are about 15 members strong. So that is where we are at today.
Awesome. Yeah, get it. I think yeah, very exciting times. I personally feel because I still recall, during early 2000 when I used to be visiting Japan, and then I still recall, I had gone to Nike's Asia's largest warehouse, which was being automated, and the whole palletizers and all that, the area PCs we used to call it, who used to control those
Right.
palletizers and all the things. And today,
Right.
the way we are really automating it and then enabling this stuff with the new age equipment, I think I'm sure we come a long way, and looking forward for really, even India to really adopt this at scale. And I think I'm
Definitely.
sure I think companies like you are surely going to be a kind of a blessing, I personally feel, in terms of accelerating that whole journey of make in India. So really appreciate your time today. And
Definitely.
if there are any further questions, I think we can still give a minute or two. If people
Sure.
may want to unmute and ask or post questions in the AMS, we could
Sure.
take those
Otherwise,
questions.
we can take them offline as well.
Correct. So if you'd like
Yeah.
to, if anyone would like to ask any question, please, or else any which ways we can give, contacts where you could reach out
Yep.
to. Yeah,
Mhm.
maybe if you'd like to post your own email ID or something.
Sure. I'll put my email ID up in the chat.
Yeah. So nice. I think, appreciate everyone who joined in today. I will not take everyone's name out over here because there's a whole lot of people who have joined in. So really, thanks to him, on behalf of Incubate Hub. We really appreciate your time and look forward to working closely with you. In which ways,
Likewise.
anyone
All right.
who shows any interest, surely we would reach out to you and
Perfect.
appreciate your time. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you, Uday. Thank you to the rest of the Incubate Hub team. Thank you to everyone who attended. Stay safe. Take care. Bye.
Likewise. Thanks.